Hi, I'm Alice Giroux. I'm a trainer, educator, and coach. And my goal is always to help people live a more fulfilled life. And I do that through coaching, through books, through courses, and talks. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about emotions. How do you handle situations that don't pan out your way? What do you do when you don't get your way? When things fall through, when you were really hoping and you really thought things would happen the way you expected. And that requires us to really get honest with ourselves. So, some people, for example, may tend to get angry, right? And getting angry is okay. There's nothing wrong with feeling all of the feelings that come with not getting what you wanted, right? So whether it's sadness, frustration, being annoyed, being angry, all of those emotions, right? There's nothing wrong with feeling what you're feeling. We're human. It's a normal human response, right? Now, what does matter is how do we express those emotions? How do we respond when we are feeling emotional? That's the important piece that I want to touch here. So think about what are your beliefs around when you don't get your way? Do you feel like you're a victim when you don't get what you want? That is a touchy subject. It can be. I won't dive deep into that today. I can certainly do another video later about that topic, especially in today's society. But it's a question to ask. Do you feel like you are a victim every time a problem occurs and things don't pan out the way you expected? Another outlook that some may have is some people feel like it's the end of the world. We've all felt like that, right? Like, oh my gosh, everything is crashing down. We don't know what we're going to do. We don't see a way out, right? Again, that's a normal human response. Another response or perspective is that some people see opportunities and problems. Absolutely. That's a perspective. And actually, it typically is. There are always opportunities in problems. It's hard to see when you're in the midst of feeling down, feeling angry, and feeling frustrated, but it's a perspective. It's a healthy perspective to have as well. So, my point here is consider what are your beliefs. It's different for everybody. Consider what your beliefs and are those beliefs serving you when you are in situations that don't pan out your way, when you don't get what you want. Are those beliefs serving you? And it requires you to look in the mirror, be honest with yourself, and really consider okay, when things don't happen the way I expected, this is how I typically respond. I lash out, I yell, I say things that I end up regretting, I end up doing things I end up regretting, I end up getting myself in trouble in some kind of way. Just consider all of the scenarios from the past that you've experienced. How do you typically respond during times of conflict when you are in an argument with your spouse, for example, or if you're in conflict in the workplace, or if your friend made you mad, whatever the case is, how do you typically respond? To be honest with yourself. It can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, and it's okay. But recognize we all have room for improvement. This is not about you beating up yourself, but identifying what adjustments can I make so that I can begin to learn how to regulate my emotions during times of conflict and when problems occur. Okay, so that's really the first step, recognizing what's your outlook around problems and situations that don't work out in your favor. Because the reality is in life, for as long as we are living and breathing, you're not going to win every battle. It is what it is. You're always going to have problems. That's the reality of life. None of us are exempt, right? And so it's about, how do you work through those obstacles? What's your perspective? Do you believe that you can overcome the problems that you encounter in life? That's something to consider. And there are some people that believe there's no way I can overcome it. So consider your beliefs, and are those beliefs serving you? Okay. Now, after you consider your beliefs and your outlook when it comes to problems and challenges in life, when you are actually in a scenario where you have engaged in some kind of conflict, or a problem occurred unexpectedly, or perhaps you are in the middle of an argument with your spouse, with someone at work, whatever the case is, and you feel your emotions heightening, right? You may be getting angry, you feel like you're boiling over, or you may be frustrated. Whatever the feelings are, you can acknowledge how you feel. That's that, and you, as you should, identify what you're feeling. Absolutely. However, we want to catch yourself. You want to catch yourself before you act out on those emotions in an unhealthy way, right? So that's the whole point of this conversation. So when you feel yourself heating up a bit, I encourage you to take a step of pause. Just pause. There is always power in the pause. And what that means is that you are to stop for a moment. So let me use an example. Let's say you're in the middle of an argument with your spouse, right? Things are getting heated. Both of you are yelling at each other. Nothing's getting through to one another. That's a good time to pause, right? So pausing may mean for you to either pause for a few minutes to kind of gather yourself and to kind of quiet down and calm your emotional response, or it may even mean that you need to go away for a walk for like 10 minutes or even 20 minutes, sometimes even longer than that, right? Just to kind of let off some steam, because if you continued in the middle of feeling angry, things would have escalated even more with your spouse, right? And we don't want you to go there. So pause by walking away. Now, let me just add this. Please never just walk away from your spouse without letting your spouse know what's going on, because that just exacerbates the issue. This is a whole other conversation here about handling conflicts in a marriage, but it's always a good idea for spouses to talk about it beforehand, before conflicts occur, understanding that, hey, if an argument occurs, just understand I may have to walk away. It's no disrespect, but just know that I'm letting off some steam. I will come back so we can continue the conversation in a civil way. All right. That's just kind of a side note, but pause. That's key. There is always power in the pause. That means to step away, take a moment to calm your emotional response. Because when you are in the middle of feeling angry and frustrated and the emotions begin to escalate, your emotions basically hijack the thinking part of your brain. And so you're no longer thinking rationally or logically, and you're all emotions, and nothing comes good typically when you're just all emotions, right? So that's why it's important to pause, take a deep breath to help clear your mind. Okay. And please let me say that even when your emotions hijack the thinking part of your brain, you are still in control. I just want to be sure that I add that. It does not mean that you are a robot and your brain takes over and you have no control. No, no, no. You are very much so in control. This is the important piece of our talk here, is recognizing how you're feeling and understanding that when you are emotionally heightened, that your emotions can hijack the thinking part of your brain, but that means that it's time for you to take over, intentionally understanding what's happening. And so you say, okay, this is the time for me to step away so I can clear my head, and then I can return in a more logical way. You're still emotional, and that's okay, but you're more regulated, right? And you're using the thinking part of your brain as well, so that you're rational in your responses with whoever you're engaging with. Now, there are other scenarios, of course, where you don't have time to step away for a few minutes, right? It may be because you're at a grocery store, you're at work, and it's a quick transaction that occurs, and conflict all of a sudden happened out of the blue. And it's something that really, really angered you and made you upset. You can still pause. You can still pause, right? Purposefully, intentionally pause, take a moment, take a deep breath, and think through the situation that you're in. And you may even have to just go ahead and complete the transaction in a civil manner, and then understanding that after you complete the transaction, you walk away and then you let off steam later. But please always understand that you are always in control. Always. So it's never an excuse to get out of control and lash out, yell, and all those things. Now, you can carve out time for yourself to be able to do that. If you need to yell things out, hit a pillow, we don't want you hitting walls or anything like that, if that tends to be kind of your thing. And that does happen with some people. Again, we don't want you to beat yourself up about it, but just recognize what you tend to do, what are your inclinations, so that you can begin to take control and make those necessary changes so that you respond in a way that you don't end up regretting later. All right. All right. So the first one was recognize what your beliefs are. What's your perspective or outlook around moments of conflict or when problems arise? And then the second step is pausing. There is power in the pause. All right. Pause. And please let me say, I understand it's much easier said than done. It is not easy, because when you're feeling all emotional and all the feelings are all over the place, you're not wanting to do anything in a civil manner oftentimes. But again, you are in control and you have the power to regulate, to manage your physical gestures. Pause for a second or two, breathe, and in that moment, decide what's best for you to do in that moment of time. You can do it. You're not a robot. Your emotions do not have to take over. You are totally in control. Please know that. And I have to emphasize that. And I won't get on my soapbox about this topic, but our society is conditioning everyone and convincing people that they are not in control of their emotions. And so people believe that they have a right to act out and lash out, and nothing is further from the truth. So you are not a victim when you don't get your way. That is a reality of life. You will lose some battles. You will have some problems. You will have to face obstacles and figure out your way. That will be true. That is true for all of us for as long as we are on planet Earth. But it's about really shifting your perspective, understanding that there is always opportunity in problems and that you can overcome obstacles. It does require you to be a little bit more flexible, understanding that things always have a way of working out in the end. It does require patience and understanding that the world is not going to come to an end, even though it feels like it. And it's okay to feel that way. So we recognize and we acknowledge how we feel in those moments. Acknowledge how you feel. Absolutely. All the feelings, just acknowledge it. It's totally okay. But we don't want to be driven by those feelings. We want to be driven by the facts of the situations. All right. There's a difference. Your feelings are very different from the facts. And we don't want to be driven by the feelings, right? But we do want to be driven by the facts of the situation. All right. I'll see you next time.